Welcome to my first book haul of 2022, and today I just wanted to show you some of the books that I recently purchased and talk a little bit about them. So without further ado, here we go. So the first book I really want to discuss is To Paradise by Hanya Yanagihara. So I read her previous novel, which was Little Life. Let's talk about this guy. So first of all, it's a pretty hefty thing. It's like 708 pages, but it feels like it's 1,000 pages. And it's not one book, but it's actually three novels in one. The last one is over 300 pages, could be like a separate book. And the first two are kind of small. What is it about? So basically it's a huge, amazing, big novel that kind of reinterprets history. So the first one takes place in the 19th century in a very weird new version of United States, where there is kind of the American Union, there's like the Republic of Maine, there are the free states, there are the colonies, the Kingdom of Hawaii, the West, and it's all kind of like delivered through a prism of this one guy who's kind of an heir to an incredible fortune, and he lives with his grandpa, who's sort of like a father figure, and then it kind of develops and so on. So it touches on a lot of the themes of Hanya Yanagihara's previous work, but it also, I guess, is her way of kind of looking at this concept of the great American novel. So I'm not sure really what to expect from it. So the second part of this novel is kind of the story of this guy who lives in Hawaii, and he also kind of is involved in an interesting story. And the last one is actually about a pandemic that's taking place in the future in New York. So Hanya said that she actually started working on this before the whole COVID thing happened. But I guess the COVID thing have helped to kind of ground it in reality a little bit more. So there you have it. This is To Paradise by Hanya Yanagihara, and I'm really looking forward to reading this. So the second book on my list is this one. So it's David Bushman and Mark T. Givens, and it's a book called Murder at Teals Pond. And as you can see from the title, or maybe you can't, this is the story that inspired the original Twin Peaks series by David Lynch and Mark Frost. So it's basically about this murder of a woman in the 19th century. She was found dead, and then people kind of tried to piece together her story and figure out what happened. Very similar to Laura Palmer's story, but this thing is actually real. So it happened a while ago. It happened at the beginning of the 20th century. So in 1908, the woman's name was Hazel, and this story is kind of like tries to come up with the conclusion of who really killed Hazel, and gives a lot of different theories. So I wanted to hear this story that inspired the original Twin Peaks, and it's written by David Bushman, who actually wrote a couple of other books about Twin Peaks, and he worked with Mark Frost, and he also wrote a book about the Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I think he knows how to do research and the stuff, and the book is actually even if you look like at the illustrations, you kind of immediately get this Twin Peaks vibe with all the like little towns and kind of those portraits in the newspapers that we got in the show. And it's I think it's a very interesting kind of take on, you know, looking at whatever the background is for the original story that Mark Frost had written. So looking forward to reading this one. So the last one is the book that is called Devil House by John Darnielle. And this is an interesting one. So John Darnielle he's a horror writer, and he writes these kind of mystery stories with a lot of weird things happening. So I have not read his previous books, but I heard a lot of good things about them. So this one takes place, I only started it like I'm like through 70 pages, but basically it's a story about this guy whose name is Gage Chandler, so not Cage but Gage, and he's a true crime writer. He moved to this house in California. He bought it, and this house is where a very weird murder sort of happened. And we find him wherein he kind of starts telling this story about this murder and how he got into investigating it. And it was supposed to be a very kind of short project for like maybe a year or two, but it kind of grew and grew, and he started living there longer, and we kind of slowly piece together and discover what happened there, what is he trying to do, what is he trying to solve, and what's the murder that he's talking about, and all those kind of things. So really interested to see what's going on here. I haven't read any of his previous works, but this book actually popped up on Goodreads recommendations for like the best horror novels that are coming out. If you guys find this format interesting, leave some kind of comment, and I will try to keep this up and upload new stuff like this. And also, if you have any recommendations of great books, doesn't really matter what genre they are, please leave them in the comments. I always appreciate some recommendations that are coming from real people and not just from algorithms on Google or Goodreads or Amazon or so on. So any personal recommendations would be great, and please subscribe, like, and I'll see you in another video. Thank you.